All about the battle to beat the champ. Reigning Crankworx DH title holder Tracy Hanna versus all comers. The fourth and final race of the Crankworx Downhill World Tour is a go. The Canadian Open DH presented by iXS.
Well, take a look at that rider on screen right now. You know, if you see somebody pedaling in the air and sometimes not wearing gloves, there's a great chance it's your current Crankworx World Tour Downhill Series leader, Sam Blankensop, a guy who secured the 2018 King of Crankworx crown already. You know he's got his eyes set on the win here in the Canadian Open Downhill, presented by iXS. Well, on behalf of everybody here at Crankworx Whistler, we'd like to thank the Squamish and Lil'wat nations for welcoming us on their traditional territory to have this amazing festival we know of as Crankworx Whistler, the final stop of the World Tour. Of course, we started way back in March in New Zealand. We went to Europe for 2 stops, and here we're back where it all began. Today, it's all about downhill racing. I'm your host, Cam McCall, alongside downhill racer and our expert here today, Andrew Neethling. Andrew, course is looking rugged out there today.
That it is. We're hearing this is potentially the last time we will race this iconic track, and it really has become an iconic track in the world of downhill. But man, it is beat up. I've been out there, I tried to do some practice runs, and I thought, you know what, it's safer to just get back in the booth with you and let the experts do their job. It is really, really rough out there. Yeah,
it's not for the faint of heart. It's become a classic downhill race. So many historic moments with riders taking the gold out here, and it's going to mean taking the gold for Troy Brosnan if he wants to crush Sam Blankensop's hopes of that overall downhill series title on the Crankworx World Tour. Take a look at how the standings sit so far with 1 race to go.
Well, there you go, guys. You get 150 points for first place. Sam Blankensop has a commanding lead. Troy Brosnan's going to need some help. He's going to need to go out there and win the race and hope that Sam Blankensop has a really big issue.
I believe it's somewhere around the 8th place mark where Sam Blankensop would have to finish for Troy Brosnan to be able to take the rug out from under him. But for the women's class, of course, we got to be talking about last year's winner, and she also won the year before that, Tracy Hanna.
Well, Tracy Hanna, she had a great race in Innsbruck. Pretty similar conditions. It was dry there, it was rough, and Tracy Hanna would take away the win there.
So Tracy Hanna looking to make it 3 Canadian Opens in a row for herself. She's won 3 in the past, but only 2 of them were in a row the last 2 years. So she's got a lot on her plate today. But if anybody can do it, Tracy Hanna is the one. Look at the line choices out there. But before that, let's take a look at our women's category current World Tour standings for the downhill races. Emily Siegenthaler tied with Tracy Hanna for the overall, but a little bit more to that story, Andrew.
Yeah, unfortunately she will not be here. She dislocated her shoulder at a Swiss race. She won't be here. So it's all up to Tracy Hanna for that title.
So we got our eyes on Tracy Hanna, and if you're paying attention, you know Emily Siegenthaler's out. Make sure you don't put her on your fantasy team. That would be a mistake. You'd waste some money. Andrew, you went to fantasy.crankworx.com and built your team. Explain your strategy.
Well, exactly that, guys. You've got a certain budget that you've got to spend, but you can't just blow it all on the top guys. That's not going to be fair. So I like someone like Magnus Manson. He's a really good buy at only 7,500.
Good call.
I wanted Sam Blankensop, but after doing some maths and some number crunching, I found out I could get Troy Brosnan and stay within budget, and he's the favorite here today for the win.
Troy Brosnan has won the last 3 Canadian Opens in a row, so smart money is on him today. I feel like you had some great strategy going into that. You might even win a Craftsman toolbox if you're lucky. So if you haven't built your team yet, go to fantasy.crankworx.com, put your hat in the ring, try to win some of those prizes. Well, we talk about how rugged and raw the course is. Let's go on board and take a look what this thing looks like from the rider's point of view.
Well, exactly that. We gave our camera to Mick Hanna. Mick Hanna's back from injury. You start on the upper Schleyer track and then it goes off into the downhill. This course, it is so challenging here. You see how dry it is, and all that dirt gets dragged onto the rock. So it's rough, it's raw, and it's very loose. Here we're going to drop into the woods, Cam, and man, this race is only 3 minutes long, but it feels a lot longer when you're out there trying to race it. Here's another steep bit. If you can navigate this, you've almost done most of the race, because then it's into the open jumps here at the bottom before you get into Boneyard and before you obviously get to the finish. So we can break this track down into probably 3 sections, Cam. The top is carrying speed over rocks, keeping momentum, then it gets technical in the woods, and then there's fast jumps all the way to the finish.
So a lot of variety in the terrain you're going to be riding, a lot of variety in the conditions. Up top's going to be dry, dusty, rugged with those roots and rocks. And the bottom, they got the sprinklers going, so that rhythm section, you're actually going to experience some moist dirt. So definitely going to take a well-rounded rider to take the cake out there today. We'll take a look at where we are. Of course, British Columbia, west coast of the great nation of Canada, and the epicenter of mountain biking, Whistler Bike Park. Why is it the epicenter, Andrew?
Well, it might have the most trails in the world. This is what every bike park aspires to. They opened up Creekside. We've got over 300 trails, 3 lifts. It's just an unbelievable place.
They're the original, and they just keep on getting better, I swear. It's like when you go to Disneyland now, you can either go to the old Disneyland that Walt created, or you can go to the California Adventure where they got the bigger rides. Going to Creekside is exactly like that. So much fun to be had out here. And one guy who's been having fun out here forever, a Crankworx pioneer, a freeride pioneer, Richie Schley. Let's take a look at how he spends his time in Whistler.
Well, we are at Velea Lumina in the forest just outside of Whistler, and it's quite a spectacular art installation, but it really feels like you're walking into a mystical forest. It's amazing. It's kind of mind-blowing, I think, for all ages. Whistler seems to keep finding ways to make the natural thing that's already there way cooler. There's so much new stuff always, new trails, new cool things to do that you kind of get lost because it doesn't look the same because it's constantly evolving and improving and getting more interesting. Huh. Where am I? Oh. So the Canadian Open Downhill started in 2007. So it's been running a long time, and there's only 3 people that have won it 3 times. Tracy Hanna and Troy Brosnan and Stevie Smith. So it's become quite a legacy at Crankworx, and it's exciting and fun because it's some of the best downhillers in the world. Things like Heckler's Rock have come in. I mean, that was authentic scene that started without anybody contriving it. It just kind of happened. The course is always evolving. It's a pretty sick part of Crankworx, actually. iXS is a kind of a brand that maybe people don't realize, but they really are so behind all of the sports because of their level of sponsorship. They have these playgrounds around the world, and they're trying to nourish them for us as mountain bikers to have a greater experience, whether it be racing or just riding the bike parks. So they truly are a brand that's behind the sport, and I feel like giving back.
So the top of the racetrack today, designed by that man himself, Richie Schley. The trail's called Schlayer. Of course, they peel off of that and ride the Canadian Open DH track. And hopefully, we'll see somebody pulling some Schlabel tops over the final rhythm section just to bring it all back full circle. But as we said before, Andrew, the track is rugged out there. And for an update on how the riders are setting up their bikes, let's send it down to Michaela Gatto.
So what I want to talk about right now is bike setup. We saw the DH bikes in the whip-off earlier this week. They were put away for the pump track and the other events, but they're back out today on the Canadian Open. The difference between whip-off and downhill setup, for the downhill, they're bringing the compression down, they're bringing the front tire pressure down, they are bringing the fork pressure down, and what that means is the bikes are going to stick to the ground a lot better. There's going to be a lot more traction in the front end, and yeah, just grip it and rip it, really.
So basically just straight up pure downhill out there, fresh tires, softer suspension. How would you set your bike up for the race today?
Well, exactly that, but you don't want to go too soft because there's so many holes out there. So we're going to see how that plays into these riders' strengths later. Bike setup is going to be key.
Probably as stiff as you can ride it and still hold on. Make sure you hold on right where you're sitting right now because this is the Canadian Open DH presented by iXS, action coming your way soon.
we're trying to make a drivetrain that works better. We're trying to improve upon the things that we had done.
Introducing the all-new SRAM GX Eagle drivetrain. No matter what kind of rider you are or the kind of terrain you might ride, Eagle is simply the best. GX Eagle drivetrains have a range of gears that rival or flat out beat most 2x systems. Engineered in Germany, made for the world. This is GX Eagle.
Dose.ca, your entertainment fix. We're going to kick off the racing action today with the Pro Women's category in the Canadian Open DH presented by iXS. Let's take a look at who will be in contention for the gold out there today. There we go. What names out there are standing out for you, Andrew? Obviously, dropping Tracy last.
Well, yeah, fastest will go last, our defending champion, but Via Verbeek has great results here in the past. Daniela Beercroft, she won slalom on a downhill bike. And obviously, we've got all-rounder Casey Brown. She'll be dropping first.
Well, the top racers in the world are going to be dropping into one of the craziest trails in the world. This is the Canadian Open DH presented by iXS, and it starts right now.
It's not just a mountain bike festival now, like this is getting bigger and bigger.
The crowd is going wild out there. It doesn't get much better than that.
It's one of the biggest things that has happened to the sport in the last 10 years, for sure.
What a huge run. We could have a new leader here.
The vibe here is what really makes the finale so special.
Just barely too short.
The time has come, Andrew Neethling. It's been a long season, 4th of 4 stops, and this is the final broadcast of the 2018 Crankworx World Tour. We're going to do it in fashion with the Canadian Open DH presented by iXS. We've talked about the course. We're going to start out with the ladies. Our first rider-up is going to be one who we've seen in a lot of the broadcasts so far this season, and definitely here in Whistler, Casey Brown. What do you make of her chances in the downhill today?
Well, she's had podiums here in the past, and when she's motivated like we saw in EWS, she really can be a threat on any type of discipline.
Well, here she is in the air downhill on the infamous A-line trail, running the trail bike.
Yeah, and speaking of that, she went on to place 3rd in that event after a long EWS race a couple days before that. So we know she's super fit, super all-rounded. We obviously always see her in whip. But I mean, my goodness, I'm just loving how she's focusing on more and more events and actually doing well in them.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about her, is you see her signing up for so many events, but you also know in the back of your mind that she has a good chance in all those events. How about the whip-off?
Well, exactly that. We know she's just the undisputed queen of whip-off. But what's great is that she's really focusing on all the events, but she's also able to manage her strategy and her fitness to get through a long week. That is Crankworx.
Well, here we go. The final event of the season, the final race for Casey Brown's busy week, and she's underway.
So we spoke about it. She has a third in ADH. This track is literally the polar opposite of ADH. ADH has got a lot of jumps. It's nice and smooth, as you see on screen. This one is rough, raw, and super technical.
Well, she's looking smooth through that rock garden.
And that'll be a key to today's race. You don't want to go too hard and hit all those holes. If you can carry speed but be smooth, you're going to obviously get less fatigue, Cam.
Opting for the low line there through this root and rock section. She's about to get spat out of the woods. Things are going to change up.
Well, exactly that. We spoke about it. It's only a 3-minute track, but this is a grueling 3 minutes. This is where she'll start excelling. These are the jumps. Going nice and big there on that hip. So there's a road gap here. Looks a lot smaller on the broadcast than it does in person. That is actually pretty long. So Casey Brown, also a 4th in Garbanzo this year. And as we spoke about, doing well in EWS.
Casey Brown nearing the bottom of the course. You see the Joyride course, so you know, if you're familiar with the Whistler Mountain Bike Park, you know about where she is in relation to the finish line.
Yeah, and we want to see her sit up nice and wide. That's good. On the bank turn, trying to hold as much speed as she can.
So the time to be 3:37, held by Carolyn Garrick right now. Looking good for Casey Brown.
Yeah, she's just got to navigate this double, and then there's a triple. Let's see if she goes for it. Opting for the double. She's going to smash the time of Caroline.
With time to spare. Wow, look at that. In the green by over 17 seconds. She moves into first place. Great run for Casey Brown. Let's take a look back at some highlights.
So she's opting for that low line, going near to the tree, and then high over the roots. Here she breaks up. So that'll be the main line that you see a lot of the riders take. It's a little bit of an S-bend. Technique is good. She's got her heels nice and planted, weight back, just trying to keep that front wheel out of all those holes.
Well, the game is changing. We're into our top 6 women. Casey Brown kicking off the broadcast here and kicking out Garrick from that hot seat by 17 seconds. Look at her face. She feels like, it looks like she is surprised by her performance right there. She must have just had a perfect run.
Yeah, great time for her. Setting the benchmark for these other women. 3 minutes, 20 seconds and change. She'll sit in that hot seat. Only 5 riders still to go.
Well, this just in is Georgia Astle. The woman who won the Garbanzo downhill is a scratch, so we have 4 women to go.
So guaranteed a top 5. You want to see her just sneak through maybe 1 or 2 more than we know she's got a guaranteed podium, so that's a strong ride.
Well, let's take a flashback to earlier in the week during the 100% dual slalom. A big surprise for us right out of the gate was that Danielle Beecroft was riding a downhill bike.
Well, exactly. We're talking about downhill, but this is dual slalom, and she opted for the downhill bike, but she qualified fastest on it, and she would back it up and take out Jill Kittner on that downhill bike.
We're waiting to see a shot of her in the start gate. I'm hoping that she's not sitting on a slalom bike for downhill, although the unconventional approach definitely worked for her earlier on in the week, but you're going to need a downhill bike if you want to threaten that time, currently held by Casey Brown, 3:20.89. Smoking time. You know, Danielle Beecroft hasn't been having to switch back and forth on bikes. That's going to be a positive. She's acclimated to that big rig.
Yeah, well said, Cam. She's definitely not changing between bikes, having to get comfy for a few runs. She's been on that bike all week and has been paying off.
So Danielle Beecroft coming from Australia. I mean, dry and dusty conditions out there too. You think she's going to be right at home here on this course?
You would think so, coming from Australia. She was 4th here in the Canadian Open last year, so we all know she's got speed here. So hard on the pedals out the gate. That's that upper Schleyer track, then the track peels off to the right. You've got to hold a lot of speed up at the top for about the first minute. It's quite flat, rock slabs, all those sort of things. Then it gets a bit steeper here in the woods where we pick them up on camera. So trying to keep nice and smooth there. Similar main line to what Casey Brown took. And they're going to get, big slip up there and a crash. No, that's what you don't want to see in downhill. You could see the hesitation before those roots. Casey Brown kept her eyes looking forward. Daniela, a little bit hesitant, and that's often what happens. More hesitation, looking down, crash from her. So that'll probably be all she wrote to try challenge Casey's time.
Yeah, Casey looked to have had a flawless run. Danielle Beecroft was flawless in the slalom, but issues here today in the downhill. She's trying to hold on and salvage something from this run, but she happened to crash right in front of one of our cameras. We happened to catch that.
Yeah, lucky for us, but unlucky for her. So that's unfortunate for her. She's going to lose a hell of a lot of time and opting to go around those jumps. So maybe just not feeling confident after that crash. Who knows if she even got hurt in it, but she's pushing on hard yet to the finish to try salvage some sort of result.
Now, she crashed pretty far into the run, too. It's got to be tough. You're fatigued by that point. You got to pick yourself up off the ground, spend extra energy doing that, and then still finish this run.
Yeah, you can see how dry and dusty these conditions are. Dirt, dust flying up here. You're into the boneyard. There's only a few more obstacles to navigate here, but you can't lose sight of what you need to do here. There's still a few things you got to do before you get to the finish. So Daniela definitely losing a lot of time. A crash like that off the bike is well over 10 seconds easy that she would have lost. And you can see just not riding as confident as attacking she would have wanted to.
Well, Danielle Beecroft, 23 seconds behind. That means she was only 5 seconds behind Garrick there. But let's take a look back. She was strong before that crash. So let's go side by side, Casey Brown and Beecroft on this section of the course.
So have a look here. So Casey Brown is opting to go even higher over those roots. More of a straight line, attacking those roots and not so off camber. So that's unfortunate for her.
Well, Beecroft getting spun sideways in that root section, but back up to the top for our next rider. That's going to be Camila Noguera out of Argentina.
So it's great to see so many riders from different countries coming out of Crankworx. So we pick her up. This is a new line. It's a tighter line. I stopped there in practice. If you can get there, I really do like how smooth it is. And it's shorter track than going the wider, easier route. So she's coming off 6th place here last year. Fairly decent result coming out of Argentina. So Camila will be looking to threaten that podium position. Pulling hard over that hip. This is the road gap. She's safely over that, the on-off. That thing comes up very quickly at race speed. There's a little bit of pedaling here down the bottom. I'd love to see her get out of the seat there, but knocking the hand lever, maybe she's had an issue before. So Camila, we've seen her at Innsbruck this year as well, taking 11th place there. Holding a little bit more inside line there. It's going to tighten up the next turn for her. So time ticking by. Casey's time has already ticked by. That is a great ride by Casey. So Camila just wants to hold in here. Can she slot into a top 3 position here with only 2 riders to go? What is the time going to tell us, Cam?
With Casey Brown holding such a massive lead, there's still a possibility that Camila may be able to slide into podium position. What's it going to be? Yep, a 3rd place for Camila Noguera out of Argentina. A long way off the lead. Just going to show how ahead Casey Brown is. Now, Andrew, let's talk about some of those line choices up top.
Well, here you see, everyone's pretty much going low to the tree. And what I like here, what Camila's done, she's gone the same line as Casey Brown. She's made her way over the roots. And right about here, you can see that she's going to do a bit of braking. So she's done her braking point there. And this is where it gets interesting. There, and she's gone way inside here, where other riders are going here to the right. That's the wider, slower line there.
Oh yeah, there's that inside berm there.
So there you go. It's exactly that. She's gone for the inside, which is trickier to get to, but once done, it's a bit smoother.
All the decisions Casey Brown made seem to be the right ones so far, but take a look who's in the start gate. Via Verbeek coming off a real strong season on a course that would definitely play toward her strengths.
Yeah, playing a little bit of the bridesmaid here. She went 2nd last year in the Canadian Open. She's also had 2nd in the ADH. However, coming off a 1st place at the US Open, so finding some form here late in the season. Via Verbeek out of Canada. You can see that national seat. There's a new line for us. So she's opted to set up. This is a great decision from her. Then, because of that tight inside line, she's forced to the outside though. That's one drawback from that Riding very consistent here. You have to play it a little bit safe. You drop into the woods, and like you said, you're going to get spat out here. And then it's all attack to the finish. You've done all the hard work.
See if she tackles this rhythm as aggressively as Casey Brown did. Oh, wow, coming up a little bit short on that step on, step off.
Yeah, it really comes up quick. When you step on, you've got to just, as soon as you touch wheels, you've got to bunny up again. Otherwise, like you say, you're going to do a little bit of a tag. That will sap some momentum.
She's got about 30 seconds to cross the finish line right now. She's about at the top of the Joyride course. This is definitely within the realm of possibility here for Via Verbeek.
Yeah, sporting that national sleeve. This is great, riding in front of home crowd here in Whistler. This is the last stop of our Crankworx World Tour. Let's make it count.
Well, 10 seconds if she's going to do it.
The time is going to be close. She's coming into the finish line here. She's got to get to the double-double.
Oh, it's going to be close.
Safely through that. Wow, it's going to be close, but it's not enough, Cam. She'll slot into second.
So close. Via Verbeek, 1.37 behind Casey Brown, going into second place.
Strong ride from our current national champion of Canada, Via Verbeek. Great results already this year, but Casey Brown stomping her authority on this race here. There's only one rider left.
Well, Casey Brown and Via Verbeek securing a podium position right now with one rider left to go. But let's take a look back at Casey Brown's run, currently leading by 1.37.
So Casey Brown, as you see, the hop over those roots, that is so great. So no risk of slipping on the roofs. She's got light on the bike. That shows you how skilled she is, how much bike handling control she has.
Just visibly faster in the tech than all the other competitors we've seen so far today.
Yeah.
Aggressive in the jumps.
Yeah, it's definitely a great track for her. She's going to use some of that jumping skills. She's going to use some of that confidence and aggression she has.
Well, take a look at our current standings in our Crankworx Downhill World Tour. Tracy Hanna will be the next rider to drop. She's tied for first place in the overall with Emily Siegenthaler, who is not racing today. So all she needs to do essentially is get just 1 point to lock up that overall title. But you know she's looking to make this race a four-peat.
Yeah, I mean, this is the favorite coming in. Tracy Hanna, 1 year, 2 years running, a win here in the past. Let's see what line she opts for. So that's the wider line. It's the wider line that Casey Brown took.
Looking quick.
A little bit different to Casey. So there, through the roots. Now, will she go inside? No, she opts for the outside. That is the easier line.
Same as Casey, though.
Yeah, same as Casey. We know it works. Getting a bit bobbled up there. It's so loose in there. Can easily get derailed for some loose rocks. This is fast. This is attacking. Tracy Hanna opting for no gloves. Something we used to seeing out of Sam Blengenthal. But Tracy obviously getting more feel for the gloves and the cockpit and the brakes with no gloves. That was a little bit cleaner than we saw out of some of the other ladies there. Not perfectly clean, but that is a very technical obstacle. So time ticking over, 2:41 and change. Got a bit of time in the bag here. And this is where she'll play into her strength. It's fast, it's loose, it's dry. It's just like Australia here.
Very similar to the time that Via had when she came to this similar section of the course.
Tracy Hanna, your reigning two-time champ here. Can she three-peat here? Can she go out on a bang here at the last stop of our Crankworx World Tour?
Current time to beat a 3:20 held by Casey Brown. Tracy Hanna is going to cross the finish line soon, so she's going to do it. Look at that, by 4.62 seconds, Tracy Hanna takes the gold medal in the Canadian Open Downhill presented by iXS for the 4th year in a row.
What a dominating performance, Cam. Really playing into her strength. It's really, really rough. Spoke to her in practice, and that's amazing.
Well, Tracy Hanna doing it with the pressure on. Let's hear it from her, Michaela Gatto.
So you've won here 3 times before, you won the last 2 years, and now you've just won again today. What is your secret about this track? What is it that absolutely puts you ahead of everybody else?
It's no secret, just putting your balls on the line, riding fast. It's like I just try my hardest every time I'm here. It's hard.
Well, congratulations. You just won the Canadian Open presented by iXS for the 4th time.
Thank you. I'm super stoked. I mean, it's a goal of mine, and I love Whistler and I love Crankworx, and Canadian Open's one of my favorite races of the season. So Super happy.
Awesome end to an awesome week.
Yes. Preach it, Tracy Hanna. What a performance. She just let her strategy out of the bag. You got to put your balls on the line.
Well, there you have it in plain English. My word, Tracy Hanna. But she's right. This track, you cannot ride at 95%. You've got to go 100%, and that's what she did. Dominating performance by Tracy. Yeah, she got it almost a little bit unstuck. You'll see how loose some of these rocks are here. There's just rocks flying everywhere, a lot of debris getting dragged on the track from previous riders, but she didn't let that phase her. So she'd done all the hard work up to the 2-minute mark here, and then she just brought it home cleanly.
With style to boot, Tracy Hanna. We'll be seeing her brother Mick Hanna in the men's category coming up shortly. But before that, let's take a look at our standings. Or a chairlift. That right there, folks, is a chairlift. Just like Tracy Hanna says, you got to put your balls on the line. When the chairlift is on the line, people are having fun going up and down this course. There it is. Tracy Hanna, the winner by 4.62. Round out our podium there, Andrew.
Yeah, over Casey Brown, which is still a ride from her, 4 seconds back, and not far behind that via Verbeek. So that's a great ride by both those Canadian women, but they just could do nothing about Tracy's form here on the Canadian Open.
That was the pro women. Pro men coming up next in the Canadian Open DH presented by iXS.
We're trying to make a drivetrain that works better. We're trying to improve upon the things that we had done.
Introducing the all-new SRAM GX Eagle drivetrain. No matter what kind of rider you are or the kind of terrain you might ride, Eagle is simply the best. GX Eagle drivetrains have a range of gears that rival or flat out beat most 2x systems. Engineered in Germany, made for the world. This is GX Eagle.
Podium refreshments provided by Kokanee Glacier Fresh Beer. It's the beer out here. So that wraps up the Crankworx World Tour downhill standings for the women, but how about the Queen race?
Well, there you have it, Cam. Jill Kittner, commanding win there. Over Casey Brown. She jumped up with a few points there, but it just wasn't going to be enough. Rounding out that podium spot via Verbeek.
Well, we can officially claim right now that that is our top 3 for the Queen of Crankworx. And for more on that, let's send it down to the third member of our team, Michaela Gatto.
Thanks so much, Cam. Yeah, I'm here with Jill Kittner. Absolutely insane lead this year on your Queen of Crankworx standings. You won last year. You were telling me, we were just chatting, you were telling me this is the 5th time that you've been queen?
Yeah, I think I was queen before it was like a big deal queen, like when it was just Whistler, but now I think it's 3 years in a row for now it's a world tour with all 4 stops, so yeah, I'm pretty good.
And you were on the podium at every event you competed in this year at every single stop except for one, correct?
Yeah, I was a turtle. I was on my back upside down in the downhill in New Zealand on the wet. It was awful.
Maybe that's why you didn't race today?
Yeah, I was not feeling it today. I'm on vacation, right?
Perfect. So the question is consistency. How do you maintain that kind of consistency over this many years, over the entire season, race after race?
I guess I'm just really boring in my normal life. Like, I'm so dedicated to being the best I can be, and like, I don't want to let a single day slip away where these girls will be better than me or have a chance. So, I mean, you never know what can happen with luck or with, you know, injuries or with anything. So, you know, you take it day by day, and I guess Crankworx, you never really try and like peak or valley too hard. You just keep it chill until the end, and then you go crazy.
Just leave nothing left to luck. Just have it all the consistency of training and all those hours you spend in the gym in the winter.
Yeah, I mean, you just can control only so many things, and the rest is like up to chance. So my mentality is just be prepared for opportunity and try and be in a good mindset and get all the best parts and equipment and people around me that I can have fun and do my job. And you know, so many bikes, so many disciplines. I raced 5 different bikes this year, and like in New Zealand we had to race 5 events in 7 days, and this one's just like so many people and things. There's a lot of distractions, but yeah, I guess that's why I can do it. I can drain them out, I guess.
Well, you seem to be maintaining that control across the board with all those bikes and all those people helping you out. So congratulations again, Queen of Crankworx in 2018.
Feels good, thanks.
Well, there's a substantial upside to having that level of dedication to the sport. Look at that, she's wearing the Queen's crown again.
Well, that's incredible, and I think it's testament to what you heard there. It's all in her preparation. She spends 365 days a year preparing for Crankworx and being a better rider.
We see on screen the men making their way through the lift line to the top of the course for the Canadian Open. But just a couple days ago, it was all about crabapple hits and the whip-off. Take a look at what went down during the whip-off championships. So Andrew, we were both up there, we grabbed our downhill bikes, had ourselves a time. I couldn't believe how many fans showed up and how sideways everybody was getting.
Well, gone from a small little unofficial event, a couple buddies would go up and maybe we'd fling a judge up there. It's now official. There are so many fans, and I think it's really what most riders and fans look forward to throughout the week. It's just going up there and having a good time.
So I love the rider meeting. They brief everybody on what's going to happen. They say, do your big whips, but don't do tricks because something like this might happen.
Yeah, and then as we're all riders, we don't really listen. We just want to go out and ride and do trains. And, you know, if that hurts some of the judging, well, that's fine because you're out there to try to have a good time with your buddies.
It was basically like, all right, everybody stop talking so we can all ignore Duncan's rider meeting in silence.
Pretty much. There you see former winner Finn Isles had his birthday this week at 19 years old. It's just unthinkable to think he's still so young and he's achieved so much.
Of course, men's and women's categories out there. You see that cardboard cutout of Casey Brown, who took the 2nd place Canadian Open DH just moments ago. And then look at that, Thomas Vanderham. Does it get much better than that?
No, I don't think so. It's probably easy one of our favorites. I know we both are a big fan of Thomas Vanderham, and he's been there from the beginning.
Hands down. But then Carson Storch found himself in the top 3. But Alan Cook for the 2nd year in a row. If you recognize that name, maybe you used to follow BMX back in the early 2000s, late 90s. Now he's a whip-off champ, works in the bike industry, but grabs his downhill bike every year. Won it the last 2 in a row. So even though this is the last day of the festival, nobody has called in and headed home. Everybody's still here raging for the Canadian Open DH. Now these people know what to do. If you want to be a fan, if you aspire, take a look at some of the guidelines.
After 15 years of extensive worldwide testing, the following are scientifically recognized methods of showing support for your favorite rider. Air horn, vuvuzela, novelty homemade signage, Instagram hashtag, cowbell, thunderstick, screaming. However, studies have shown that fan nakedness has a detrimental effect on athlete performance. And that's why you need this. But you can't get it here. It's only available on site at the best mountain bike destinations on planet Earth.
So pick up your Crankworx World Tour merchandise provided by Fox, because why wouldn't you? Look at that, there's a Gorgonzola or a Vuvuzela, whatever they're called, provided by Fox. Kid's having himself a blast. A little freebie lightheadedness there. But take a look at our King of Crankworx standings. Our overall, Sam Blankensop, securing that title. Thomas Lemoyne would have needed a second place last night in Joyride to be able to knock him out. And Sam Blankensop, thumbs up, frown, not sure what emotional status he has at this moment in time. But it should be happiness, because he is the king.
And he's $20,000 richer, and he can get a whole lot richer just today. Well, he's got the series. Sorry, he's got the series on the line as well.
You'd have to beat these guys to be able to do it. Who do you think is a contender for him?
Well, there you go. Let's look at that's the first page. That's only the first page. Bas van Steenbergen, he likes it. Elliot Jackson. But let's scroll down here. We're going to see someone like Mick Hanna coming back from injury. Eddie Masters, well, he's on fine form. And then the heavy hitters, your Conor Ferrin, Mark Wallace, local favorite, Sam Blankensop, and let's not forget Troy Brosnan.
Troy Brosnan has won this event the last 3 years in a row. So of course Sam Blankensop, he would love to win $32,500 just in the last couple days. He secured the King of Crankworx last night, and if he's able to win the race, it's going to be a big payday for him.
Well, exactly that. There's $7,500 just on the line today for the race, but there's a series title on the line that's also $5,000.
Well, take a look at your third place finisher in the Air DH just a couple days ago. He'll be racing out here today.
That he will. A former winner of this race. Hasn't quite been able to spark another win, but third place in a heavy field, that's no mean feat either.
Well, it's time for Bas van Steenbergen to trade the trail bike out for the full downhill rig. The only weapon of choice for the Canadian Open DH presented by iXS. Bas van Steenbergen dropping in.
So Bas, known a little bit more for his events like the Air DH down in Rotorua, he's done well. He's obviously done well in Whistler. On that hyper bike, developed by team manager Eric Carter, a former legend of the downhill world. So we know that bike's going to be working. They've been doing a lot of work and development on it. So Bas opted for that outside line. It is a lot more rough and a bit more of an S-bend, if I may say, kind of weaving your way through there, but it's easier to get there.
Jeez, it looks so slick out there.
It is, man. It's so slick under tires. You just one little mistake. Oh, whipping it out for the crowd. And that's a tough way to race because you want to attack, but one little mistake. Was he on a showboat run or is he racing here? Well, he's hard on the pedals, so he must still be happy with his run.
I think he just can't help having such aesthetically pleasing riding. It's just something that oozes through his blood.
Yeah. So Bas, one of the tallest riders on the circuit. Like we said, developing the bikes with hyper. They're getting back into the game here. So there's your time to beat. That's a split time you see there, as far as I know. No.
Kirk McDowell, former
Canadian
national champion, I believe from last season, currently holding down that 249. Bas van Steenbergen through the line, not going to threaten that time, but where will it place him? 13 seconds back puts him into 19th place, so perhaps an issue up top, or maybe just something that happens when you whip out the back end in the rhythm sections. But Bas van Steenbergen looking good on camera. Left a little time out there. Let's take a look back at the replays.
So let's look at Bas. He's really got some of the best technique out there in the game. He's keeping both feet planted and in a neutral position, so he hasn't dropped a foot. And that way, he's really consistent with his weight on that outside tread. And there's a little bit of a table whip for you as well if we want to talk technique. Leaning into it, super stylish Bas as always.
I could watch Bas van Steenbergen ride all day long, every day. Unfortunately, he's not going to move into podium position with that run. Right now, the standings look like this. Kirk McDowell in the lead by just about a second ahead of Rory Cunningham. But of course, this race, so legendary. It was won 3 times by this man right here, Stevie Smith. Unfortunately, we lost Stevie a few years ago. Such a champion, such a great friend. And this race is always held in memory of him. Such a fixture in the Whistler Village all summer long. So if you want to support the Stevie Smith Fund and honor the legacy this charity is doing great things for local communities around BC, building bike parks. So go on to GoFundMe.com and donate to the Stevie Smith Legacy Fund.
Yeah, it seems like yesterday he was out having a laugh and just crushing the competition. Sad for our sport, but it's great that people are taking the initiative, setting up those funds, and hopefully getting the next Groms out here.
Well, if you're wondering why it's so hazy, no, we don't have strange problems with our cameras. Some wildfires out here in BC, and the smoke was in full effect yesterday during Joyride. Luckily, there was no wind, just smoke. On windy days, it has a tendency to blow the smoke away from us, but on calm days, this is what it looks like here in Whistler. So it's got to be tough ripping down that course, breathing this smoke, but these racers definitely doing whatever they can in these conditions. The next rider in the gate out of Canada, Matt Beer.
Well, a fitting name for here in Whistler. A lot of beer has been consumed, Kokanee beer throughout the whole week. But no time for that. We are racing here, the Canadian Open, final stop of our World Tour. I can't believe it's all done.
Inside.
Exactly that. So he's opted for that inside line. And it sets him up for that outside line. Very well ridden there from Matthew Beer. 8th in Canadian Open last year. Against a pretty stacked field, so he'll be looking to maybe even improve on that. Dips his hat in the enduro racing as well. So an all-round rider here, Matthew Beer from Canada. So this on-off. Oh!
Whoa!
There.
That was a...
As I said that, I was talking about that earlier. That thing almost caught me out when I had a little practice run. If you go just a touch too far on that on-off, exactly what happens there, you're straight into the roller. Holding good pace here down the finish. 2:49, the time to beat. Kirk McDowell is sitting in that hot seat. A lot of riders still to come. He can't get too comfy there.
Inside line again.
There. So Matt Beer having some really nice lines here, opting for the shorter distance. Is it going to pay off? That time ticking by. No, it's not going to be enough, but can he slot into a top 3 position?
Oh, Matthew
Yes, he does
Beer.
just that. 3rd place.
Look at that, 4.96 back, sitting in podium contention so far, but with a whole lot more riders at the top of the course who have something to say about that. But I want to hear, Andrew, what you have to say about that little bit of squirreliness in the rhythm section.
Yeah, so as you see, that's the road gap. He's gone too deep on the road gap, and then again, he can't keep it on the ground. See how far he lands, and then he's pretty much in the next roller.
It's a good save, really.
Great save. I think that's the most impressive thing, is that he actually saved that, because that was a huge mistake.
So Matt Beer holding on, landing in 3rd place currently, but take a look back up at the top of the course. This is a very familiar face. Looks to be Keegan Wright. Keegan Wright, we've seen him on the podium in pump track. He won earlier on this season. Oh, Elliott Jackson is on course right now, though. Always aggressive, Elliott Jackson. Take a look.
Well, one of our favorite riders of Crankworx and the world of downhill, Elliott Jackson, always smiling, but also always aggressive on the bike. Getting hung up a little bit there in the holes. You can see how rough that is, using all the suspension that he has there.
Well, I want to ask you about this. We've got smoke here today. We just talked about it. Elliott Jackson, he retired from racing, then he came back, but the reason for retiring was he had some problems with his lungs or something like that. Do you think this is going to be a tough condition for him?
Well, definitely. While you're doing it, you'll probably be okay, but you'll see he'll probably be wheezing and coughing to finish. Yeah, he had some, well, good line there as well. Opting over the stump. So yeah, while you're riding, you're probably not going to feel it, but man, afterwards, he's had problems with asthma before. We're glad to see him back here racing. So that time to beat, 2:49.90. Elliott Jackson in touch here, opting for the outside line, which carries way more speed than the inside line that we saw out of Matthew Beer. Time ticking by here, 2:51, 2:52. He's not going to be able to beat the time of Kirk McDowell, but Elliott Jackson through the finish line into 5th position.
Elliott Jackson just outside of podium position there, into 5th place, 7 seconds back. So we saw a hint of who we have in the start gate earlier. Keegan Wright. He's been riding strong all season, competing in multiple disciplines. Let's talk about round 3 in Leger during the pump track race.
Well, this is night and day different to what we're going to see here. This is a smooth pump track. And my word, Keegan Wright flying.
So Keegan Wright, of course, One of the names to beat in pump track, but also a top contender in downhill. It's always impressive how aggressive he is on the pedals.
He is aggressive, uses a lot of body English. On a type of track like this, you want to use maybe even less body English because it's so loose. The more movement, there we go. Opting for the inside line, the tighter inside line. Aggressive hops there to miss the holes. As we said, as you have mentioned, he is an aggressive rider. If you can keep it together with that aggression, you will go fast here down the Canadian Open.
You got to be fit to ride like Keegan Wright. I mean, I swear he's using more energy than anybody out there.
So clean through the on-off. That is a technically challenging jump, even though it's so small. You're just going so quick.
Notice that, hands off the brakes, opening up the fingers just to eliminate that arm pump.
Yeah, so it's only a 3-minute track. 2.5 minutes of it is rough and rowdy, and you will get arm pump on a track this rough. So 2 minutes 35 and counting. He's got to beat a 2:49. That's Kirk McDowell. He's still in the hot seat here. So Keegan Wright, no slouch on a downhill bike, even though he's focusing more on EWS this year. On the Union Da Vinci bike. This is closer than we've seen for a while. Just ticking by. Kirk McDowell will stick to that hot seat. Where will Keegan Wright be? 4th position.
The time from Kirk McDowell holding up right now. A good run for Keegan Wright, but only good enough for 4th place. Kirk McDowell, a Canadian national champion from, I believe, last season, holding down that hot seat position.
So Keegan, to me, reminds me a lot of someone like Mick Hanna. He's got his head very low, a little bit ahead of the bars. He's a really aggressive rider. He lets his bike and his body follow that head and where the eyes are looking.
Back up to the top, it looks like Shane Leslie out of the USA.
So 15th here, last year in the Canadian Open. Also does EWS riding. He's your 2016 Pro GRT champ in the States. So putting together a great season there back in 2016. Holding high over those routes, drops a pedal unfortunately. It's going to cost himself a bit of time there, but he stays on. So he's opting for the low wide line. Drops into that hole. That's the one Keegan Wright was able to jump over. So you'll be relieved when you pop flying out of this woods, Cam. This is where you just want to get to the finish. You know you've done all the hard work, but you can't get complacent here. There's still these obstacles, like we saw some of the riders make a mess of this.
At race speed, that on-off is only, I mean, it's a pretty quick millisecond. They're touching down on that thing. Looks like a bike length and a half of space.
Well, exactly that, and that's where practice is key. You've got to put together race runs. There's no qualifying in an event like Canadian Open. So you've got to go out there on your own and do these sections at race pace. And sometimes when a rider forgets to do that or doesn't feel like doing that, that can catch you out at race pace because you're often going a little bit faster than practice.
We're really seeing right now how strong that time was from Kirk McDowell. Shane Leslie already outside of that 2:49.9. So Shane Leslie, as he crosses the finish line and goes into 21st position, I'm really interested to hear about Kirk McDowell's run. Michaela?
All right, so I remember chatting to you, Kirk, in Innsbruck, and you said that the reason why you had such a fast run was maybe because you were leaking some air. Well, today, your bike is totally fine. Tell me how it was out there.
Yeah, no excuses this time, right? No, it was good. I was pushing really hard. Like, I've felt pretty good in practice all kind of last few days, so I didn't want to just take like an easy run. I wanted to like push forward, and I think it was good. A couple mistakes, but yeah.
Well, hope the time holds.
Cheers.
Back up into the start gate, this is going to be Yuki Kushima out of Japan.
Not to be mistaken for Kushima coating on the Fox 40s that he is currently piloting down the hill there. So we saw Yuki back in Rotorua 15th. What line will he opt for? So he's gone for the safer wide line there. Man, it is treacherous conditions here today. You see all those loose rocks. Oh, a little bit of a stall there before the steep chute. So Yuki popped into the Europe Crankworx in 2017. We haven't seen a whole lot of him at these events, but it's great to have riders from all over the world, Ken.
World-class field out here. Great to have somebody all the way from Japan. And let's see if he has what it takes to threaten that time from Kirk McDowell.
Yuki looking to beat a 2:49, but that is a storming time from Kirk McDowell. How well will that hold up against some of the heavy hitters still to drop here? Yuki's time ticking away, 2:48 and change.
So not going to do it here for Yuki Kashima. But let's talk about just having some local knowledge here. Kirk McDowell, definitely no stranger to this course. How much of an advantage is that?
Well, I think it is a big advantage. Not so much as in EWS, but in downhill, he can conserve energy. He knows some of the local lines. Maybe he's able to miss some of those bumps, and he's just a little bit more confident in these conditions, which takes a bit of time to get used to.
Funny thing is, though, this isn't a trail that's open all year round, is it?
No, it's not. You're totally correct.
Well, let's take a look back.
Yeah, so like you said, something like the course isn't open, but man, the terrain and the type of dirt, the rock slabs, that's all over Whistler. If you're riding Whistler a lot, you'll get used to the type of conditions that are on the Canadian Open.
Well, Henry Fitzgerald in the gate right now. He had a 4th place in the Garbanzo downhill earlier on in the festival. What's he have for us here in Canadian Open?
Wow, carrying good speed there. I would love that hop over the roots. This looks aggressive from Henry Fitzgerald. This looks really aggressive. Holding good speed here. Wow, he's carrying very good speed. Look for this time to be good. He's visibly more attacking through that line.
Oh, big time. This is a game changer right here.
So the youngster from Canada, what will he be able to do here on home soil? Here in Whistler.
Seems like we're looking at Sam Blankensop here.
That it is, not to be mistaken for Sam Blankensop. Teammate of Sam Blankensop. You will see Sam later. Sam looking to lock up the downhill series here. This is aggressive here. Is this time going to be able to get anywhere near Kirk McDowell? 2:30 and change as he drops out of the woods here. Let's see if a little bit more inside line there. Going a little bit late on that jump. Can he carry good expert speed? This is going to be Foscam. Henry Fitzgerald. Yeah, he's only got one more jump to navigate.
Oh, come on! So close, less than a second. Henry Fitzgerald moves into 2nd place, the closest time we've seen to Kirk McDowell thus far. Wow, look at these replays. I mean, pedaling in the air, no gloves, the same bike, same kit.
Watch the hop there over the roots, staying very high, missing most of those roots. Henry was attacking run so far here as well. Aggressive ride from the teammate of Sam Blankensop. Wow, it is tight and rough through those trees, Cam.
That was close right there. 0.59 behind Kirk McDowell. Impressive performance out there from Henry Fitzgerald, but let's talk about Hugo Langevin right now dropping in, another Canadian rider.
Yeah, won the opening round of the Canada Cup back earlier in the year. So let's see what line he opts for here. Oh, getting a little bit light there, carrying some speed. So that is basically the line you'll see most of the riders take. That's the easiest line, the least amount of thought and stress to get down to that low line. So Hugo has been told that he's an avid trail builder. He helps out at his local bike park, MSS Bike Park in St. Sylvain down in Quebec, on the other side of the coast, Cam, to here on the west side of British Columbia. So still sitting in the hot seat is Kirk McDowell. Storming time by him, 2:49.90. This is a little bit back. As we saw Henry, he was 2:30 and change coming out of the woods there.
You know the Canadians want to reclaim the gold here at the Canadian Open. Troy Brosnan has won it the last 3 years in a row. Of course, he's Australian. Hugo not going to be able to knock out his fellow Canadian Kirk McDowell, but where will he sit? 4th place right now, back by a little bit over 4 seconds for Hugo.
Strong ride by Hugo. We haven't seen a lot of him at our Crankworx events, and that's a strong ride. In 4th, definitely a host of riders still to come.
Look at that, a couple Canadians there in the top 3. Kirk McDowell, Henry Fitzgerald. So they're looking good right now if they want to grab that gold medal in the Canadian Open, bring it, hold it on, bring it back to Canada. It's been in Australia for so long.
Yeah, I mean, Troy Brosnan winning it 3 times in a row, looking for a 4th heat. One thing that they can maybe feel good about is Troy Brosnan did base himself out here in Whistler in Canada for a year or two, so he is kind of a half local.
Innocent by association.
There we go, Bernard Kerr opting for that inside line here. And it sets him out for that outside line. I like that direct route. If they can break up the top inside, they do one turn and then they kind of all the way straight down to that bottom left turn. Bernard Kerr having the season of his life last year until, unfortunately, big crash at one of our Crankworx stops would take him out. Trying to find some form because he had another injury early in this off-season. So Bernard Kerr trying to find the form that he had last year. 5th Canadian Open in 2016. He bounced back this year at Innsbruck, took a 5th in the downhill.
I feel like sitting at 225 right now is not too bad.
No, not bad at all. This is in and around Henry Fitzgerald's time, maybe a second or two back. So Bernard Kerr, like we said, he's just got to get some reps under his belt. He's got to do as many downhill races as he can, get that fitness, get that confidence back, try end the season on a high here so he can go into off-season healthy. But Bernard Kerr slots into 4th position, 2.72 back. Kirk McDowell's time is looking even more impressive. Every big name that he knocks off here.
Look back at a former king of Crankworx, Bernard Kerr, in the technical roots and rocks. That is dust on crust right there. That's got to be so slippery.
Yeah, it is. There's so much dirt and rock getting dragged onto those rock slabs. It's unpredictable, sometimes changing from run to run. So will that affect someone like Troy Brosnan later in the race? Well, time will tell.
Well, this is the guy I got my eyes on right here. You put him on your fantasy team, Canada's Magnus Manson.
Well, yes, good measure. He's only in his 2nd year elite. Your Canadian DH national champion, 2nd in air downhill. So you see that sleeve that he's riding with on the left-hand side. Wow, carrying good speed. So he's opting for, wow, that was quick as well. That's a new line as well, carrying very good pace. You can see he's opting for lines that he can just carry pace. He's not worried about braking going inside. He's just seeing how fast he can go, how much pace he can carry around the outside of this track. This is fast, Cam.
Magnus is bringing something special. I cannot wait to see what this time is. Look at that, 205 right now in the rhythm section.
Wow, just clean through there. He's carrying so much pace. He did that as good as he could, and he still tagged it because he's carrying so much pace. So Magnus Manson, 2nd in ADH. Can he hop on the podium here in Canadian Open in front of hometown crowd here in Whistler, Canada? Kirk McDowell. This is fast, Cam. I feel like he's up here. He's out of the woods at 228.
He's got 19 seconds to play with right now as he enters the final wooded section of this course.
So the youngster, my word, Magnus Manson.
Come on, Magnus.
Can he do it? Tribute to Steve Smith here in hometown Whistler.
Oh, with style.
He's gonna do it.
Magnus Manson through the line, 3.62 ahead of Kirk McDowell. He goes into the lead.
Huge
what a
run. We both picked it. We wanted to see this guy, see what he can do here in downhill. On my fantasy team, he was your pick before the broadcast started. The youngster's only his 2nd year elite. The Canadian national downhill champion.
I mean, let's take a look back at how aggressive he is, especially in the technical sections. Just beating up this course.
So let's have a look. He's opting for as much speed and momentum as he can take, just going for all the wide lines, seeing as little braking as he can do. Here again. He's trying to stay low, he's trying to hop, but he's barely making it because he's going so fast.
His front wheel left the platform before he took off.
I also heard that he tried to quad that in practice.
I'm not surprised. Look at the style here at the bottom. This is reminiscent of something that Stevie Smith would have done.
Exactly that. This guy's carrying so much pace. Apparently he was mentored a bit by Stevie Smith before we lost him. The tribute on the jersey, Long Live Chainsaw. Man, that is a huge tribute, Magnus. Great run by him. 3:46.28. We thought Kirk McDowell's time was fast. Well, we have a new leader, Magnus Manson. We have a new name in Canadian downhill.
What an exciting young rider. I'm very, very excited to see if anybody's going to have what it takes to knock Magnus Manson off of that hot seat in our Canadian Open Downhill presented by iXS. The top 10 men coming up after the break. Don't go away.
We're trying to make a drivetrain that works better. We're trying to improve upon the things that we had done.
Introducing the all-new SRAM GX Eagle drivetrain. No matter what kind of rider you are or the kind of terrain you might ride, Eagle is simply the best. GX Eagle drivetrains have a range of gears that rival or flat out beat most 2x systems. Engineered in Germany, made for the world. This is GX Eagle.
Crankworx, brought to you in part by SRAM, the power of bicycles. Speaking of power, Magnus Manson, a powerful run out of him, going into the lead with a time of 2:46.
All right, Magnus, so you're currently sitting in the lead. The boys were talking about when we were watching you come down, you were taking some wider lines than some of the other guys. I'm just wondering what the mentality behind that was.
Yeah, so I'm a pretty heavy guy, so I got to kind of keep the speed where I can, and I feel like insides I can't just hold them, so just lean in and go wide.
And you came second at the Air DH earlier this week. How did that affect you going into today?
Yeah, I think it's great because a lot of the guys racing today were racing that, and it just builds, like, gets the ball rolling, so.
Kind of builds that confidence.
Oh, yeah.
And they say a lot about hometown advantage and things like that. You're from here, you're from BC, but you're from the island. How many times do you get to ride Whistler?
Man, I think I've done like 5 days before this week, so came up opening weekend, figured out the lines with Henry, and yeah, back here now. And it's fun riding it now because it's so dry, but yeah.
Changed quite a bit from the beginning of the season.
Oh yeah, whole different game.
So you're just super fast is what you're trying to say?
No, I don't say that.
Well, I'm gonna say it. Congrats on the hot seat.
Thank you.
Well, all the skill you could imagine in the world on a bicycle, and he's a humble guy too. You gotta like this young rider, Magnus Manson. But if you're one of the top 10 riders about ready to drop into this course, you may have another thing to say. You might be saying, get this guy out of the field. He's threatening our status right now. Magnus Manson holding it down, 3.62 ahead of second place Kirk McDowell so far, but 10 more very fast riders to go, Andrew Needling.
Yeah, but I'm really impressed with that guy. He's playing to his strength. He knows he's a taller rider. He knows maybe a little bit heavier. So he doesn't want to break and have to get back up to speed. So he's seeing how wide he can go to see how much exit speed. Also, bike setup was key. I think he's on a little bit larger frame than some other riders because he's big, and you can see he can move his body around and he doesn't get too out of shape.
Makes a ton of sense. Keep preaching, man. Take me to race school.
Well, let's have a look. So we have a look here. Magnus Manson coming through here. What I want you to look at, you're going to see him do a hop right about now. It's going to be a hop that he does.
Oh, yeah, right over the top of that big rock.
So as you see here, stop it there. So as you can see that route, he's using that as a ledge. Instead of dropping down here where there's a hole, he's actually going straight forward, seeing if he can miss that hole and carry that forward momentum he was talking about.
Holes are only bad if you're in them. if you don't touch the holes, I suppose they may as well not even be there. Magnus Manson always looking a few steps ahead, isn't he?
Well, exactly that. You hit it nail on the head. Every hole that you can miss, you're going to go faster. It's going to sap less energy.
Magnus Manson, to be able to hold onto the bike with those aggressive line choices, it's easy for us to talk about it, but that guy actually has the skills to do it. I'm really, really interested to see if any of these top 10 can hold a candle to that run right there. Of course, the last rider on course will be Troy Brosnan, the winner the last 3 years here on this very track. He's owning this race right now. He would win it for 4 times in a row if he's able to do that today. That hasn't been done before. So who are those top 10 riders? Take a look at this start list right here.
Well, let's look at this. We only got 10 left. We'll start with Yuri Zajac, Rudy Caribou. Then Michael Handel coming back from injury. Eddie Moss is one of our favorites. Man, we've got some real heavy hitters. And let's not forget Troy Brosnan at the end. And before that, Sam Blenkinsop. Can he secure the series title?
Sam Blenkinsop looking to make it a big money day for himself. $20,000 to him last night. And more up for grabs today in the Canadian Open. The smoke not deterring any of the mountain bikers out here today. The lift line still packed. Everybody enjoying all that Whistler Mountain Bike Park has to offer, especially all the new trails on Creekside. I cannot get enough of that. Hoping to get some ride in later today. How about you?
Exactly. These lifts are running still. They're running till 8 p.m. Everyone's trying to get those last few runs in before we head home. And I can't believe the World Series
before
is
we
almost
head home
finished.
wheezing. It's all worth it, right? Well, back to racing. Rumor has it we have a rider in the start gate, Yuri Zajac. What do you know about him, Andrew?
Well, does most of his racing over in Europe, but he's on the Junior Da Vinci team, so he's over here in Crankworx. He has won some iXS Cups over in Europe last year. Also, standout result, top 10 at a World Cup. That's no mean feat. So we've got some intermediates. He's 2.95 back, losing a further 3 and a bit seconds, back to 6 seconds. But my word, that's no surprise after we saw Magnus Manson charging through here. So there you see that little hole that Magnus decided to jump over. Zuri, he's put his frontal into it. He's losing a bit of momentum. So Cam, you see a lot of these riders, you've noticed it. If you're up to speed, you're better off getting into a speed tuck, maintaining that speed that you're up to instead of kind of being like a wind sail if you stand up. And Yuri's a very tall rider, so it doesn't help him if he's standing up.
Well, definitely pedaling over those washboard bumps as well. You'll be skipping the wheel off the ground, losing more speed than you're gaining. So Yuri making good choices out here. Let's see, he was behind at the splits. He's only got 5 seconds left across the finish line. I don't foresee that happening, but where will it put him?
No, Magnus Manson sitting in your hot seat, 2:46.28. That's your time to beat. Yuri bleeding a lot of time here down the bottom. Loses a little bit more time, but slots into 8th position.
The Slovenian rider, Yuri Zajac, crossing the finish line with a time that's not going to threaten that man right there, Magnus Manson, the Canadian national champion and your current leader of this race.
Well, we won't get tired of seeing this replay. You see how aggressive he was. Just opting for all the wide lines, staying out of the bumps if he could, hopping bumps where he wasn't able to stay out of them, flying to the finish there. And it's only his 2nd year elite.
Well, the next opponent to threaten the time is Rudy Cabarrou out of France.
Well, the Frenchman taking a 5th place at the European Continental Champs already this year. We haven't seen him at the Crankworx Whistler, so how will he do on a course that he doesn't know? Well, 2.35 back. That's not too shabby going against the likes of Magnus Manson. Wow, Magnus was fast in that middle section of the course, bleeding another 4 seconds there. While Rudy had a breakout result last year, took 8th place at Lenzerheide World Cup over in Switzerland. So coming out of the woods here. Big hip jump. This is a fun section of the course. Then there's the road gap. Looks small from there, but my word, it's long. Step on, step off. Hard on the pedals here. You want to get as many pedal strokes as you can. Leave it all out on the line because you've only got some berms and jumps to the finish once you finish that pedaling. And Magnus really showing how much speed he carried all the way down this track.
They raise him special out there on the island.
That they do. Luckily getting some mentorship from the late Stevie Smith, trying to emulate some amazing, amazing results and what that man did for the sport. And Magnus Manson is doing Stevie pride right now. Let's not forget Mark Wallace is still to drop later. Eddie Masters, the likes of Sam Blenkinsop.
Rudy Cabarrou through the line. A time good enough for 10th place overall right now. Back by 9.75 behind the Island's own Magnus Manson, who's looking pretty comfortable in that hot seat right now, dodging another bullet. Less than 10 riders to go here. The Canadian Open DH presented by iXS. Manson, Kirk McDowell, Henry Fitzgerald hanging on to those top 3 spots. But look at this. Look who we have in the gate right now. We saw his sister win the women's category. I'm talking about Mick Hanna.
Well, man, he has a long list of achievements, but Mick Hanna came out swinging at the first round of the World Tour and down in Rotorua. Took a first place in the Redwoods. Would go on to take first place in the air downer. He's lost a bit of time, 2.11 seconds. But Mick Hanna would sustain an injury in Fort William at the World Cup, so he's bouncing back from injury, trying to get some bike time. Spoke to him early in the week. Let's see how he handles the bottom bit of this course, because this is literally the first few times that he's ridden his downer bike since injury, so we know he's going to get a bit fatigued down the bottom here. So Mick Hanna won and podiumed at many events down in Crankworx. The legend from down under, Mick Hanna, trying to challenge the time of Magnus Manson, but he's 6 seconds back. That is a mammoth task and impossible to bring back. Only a minute left to track. So we saw Tracy Hanna, Mick's sister, on the Podium New York team. She would come out, take the win. Mick Hanna, we know he's just looking to be consistent. He wants to be safe. He's coming back from injury. We see that wrist guard on the right side of his body, on the right wrist.
Oh, I was wondering if he was going to try to do it. God, he's ridiculous. Mick Hanna across the finish line with a suicide no-hander. His trademark way of crossing the finish line. Not going to bump anybody out of the podium, but putting a smile on everybody's face in that finish line crowd. I saw how small that last jump is on that rhythm section, but I also watched him in practice pinch the seat, so I thought we might see something.
So let's take a look at Mick. You can see how low and hunched over the bike he is. He really leads with his head. He keeps it low over the bars. It's just literally one of the most unique styles on a downhill bike, Mick Hanna.
Well, one of the most entertaining guys out on the circuit. When I say circuit, I'm talking everything from downhill to Enduro World Series, Ed Masters.
Entertaining, but my word, impressive this year. 2 podiums at EWS already, carrying good speed there, so he's 2 seconds back. Aggressive riding. See that hop to the inside. That was an impressive line by Eddie Masters. I like that. While riding aggressively. Similar to what Magnus did. Also coming off one of his best World Cup finishes of El Nord, taking 9th place. So Eddie Masters, not only the clown prince of Crankworx, also notching up some results this year.
He took a lot of risks in that technical section.
That he did. Can he pull back any time? Very aggressive by Eddie Masters. He was 2 seconds back at the latest split. Keeping it honest there, 2.66 seconds back. So he was aggressive through that middle section, just like Magnus. Those lines paying off for him. He hasn't lost any more time. Eddie Masters trying to challenge the time. 2:46.2 up of Magnus Manson. One of the friendliest, funniest guys on the circuit, but taking his racing very seriously here. He's here into the finish cam.
Ed Masters letting it all hang out, and a time good enough to put him in a 2nd place currently, behind by 2.62. Wow, what a ride by Ed Masters. Well, the next rider in the gate, we've got 5 left to go, and if you remember, Innsbruck, round number 2 of the Crankworx World Tour, Dak was on a great run. He was in the green at the split before this happened.
Shame, riding on a lot of confidence, but man, how quick that can fade away. Just losing the front there and smashing into the tree. He would sustain a little bit of an injury to his shoulder after starting the season the best he's ever started, taking 5th place at a World Cup down in Croatia.
We're definitely looking to bounce back from that injury that's been hindering his performances on the World Cups and the Crankworx World Tour. An opportunity to do that right now for Dakota Norton.
So equipped on that 29-inch Da Vinci bicycle. So Eddie Masters. Wow, Dakota hopping there into the inside. So creative line from Dakota, but he's 3.52 seconds back. Not able to hop that bump, sapping a little bit more momentum for him there. So there are probably 3 riders that have similar styles here. Mick Hanna started with it. Head low, leading with the head, charging. Dakota Norton similar, and Keegan Wright, I would say, on the circuit. So can he put some power down? Can he draw back any of that time that he's already lost? 3.52. Magnus Manson, with only 5 riders left, is still sitting in that hot seat. 3:46.28, the time to beat.
Well, Dakota Norton, he's only got a couple seconds left if he's going to cross the finish line in podium contention. What's it going to be? Through the line, back by 4.11, putting him right off of the podium in 4th place. So a great ride for Dakota Norton, but just going to show how fast that run was from Magnus Manson. Every time we see the first split, we really respect that run more and more.
Yeah, the strategy out here, with only 3 minutes of track, you can leave nothing out on track. You know you got to attack fast, and that's what he did. So Dakota, wow, opting for that inside line, hopping to try get over some of those routes, just carry a bit of momentum. This is where I like what Eddie Masters and Magnus did. They're able to just set up and hop from that route over that little bump there and stay high at the tree. Man, the track is bumpy out there. You can see how much they are going through their suspension.
Great to see Dakota Norton healthy after watching him smash into that tree earlier this season. It definitely hindered his results all season, but going to secure a decent finish here, sitting in 4th place overall right now. And I like that double to manual. We haven't seen that yet.
No, we haven't. Very impressive. Yeah, that's going to knock all sorts of things. Dakota came in firing. He was headstrong. He was confident. He was healthy. Well, it knocked his health, but it also knocks your head when you take a crash like that.
Well, take a look at the close-up on those pedals. That means one thing. Connor Fearon out of Australia, the only flat pedal rider in the final 10.
Well, there's not many flat pedal riders left. Sorry, guys, having a blunder there. But Connor Fearon, known for foot out, flat out. He's an aggressive rider.
Whoa.
And he's up. 0.1, and he's further got a lead, 0.05. My word, Connor Fearon's on a storming run here. The only man to come close to Magnus' splits, Connor Fearon on the flat pedals. Wow, that's impressive on such a rough track. Cam, what are we seeing here? Can a man, another Aussie, upset the Canadians here? Magnus trying to get that title back from Troy. But we've got Connor Fearon. This is where he's going to struggle to put the power down on the flats. As you see, adjusting those feet. What is this split going to tell us?
Oh, man, just
is he within touch? Yeah, he can get a lot more aggressive, Connie can. There you go, inside, letting it all hang out. Connor Fearon on a storming run here. He was up at the first 2 splits. Trying to challenge the time of Magnus Manson, 2:46. Connor Fearon, time is ticking over.
Oh, it's going to be close, Andrew. Connor Fearon through the line. It is enough. He beats the time from Magnus Manson by 0.4 of a second and takes over the lead.
Connor Fearon, my word, on the flat pedals. That's impressive on such a rough course, but I think because it's so dry, played into his favor.
Well, Connor Fearon floating through the course. Michaela, let's get underneath that helmet.
Okay, so everybody is talking about the fact that you're the only guy out there right now on flat pedals. That track is insanely technical, huge holes. I want to know, how do you keep your feet on the pedals?
I don't know, it's all I know, and flat pedals is way better, obviously, so it's the only way to do it.
Opinionated and confident. I like that. Congratulations, moving into the first place position.
Thank you.
Is there any other way?
Well,
you got the shoes on. You put the shoes on the pedal. What do you need something to affix them to the pedal for?
Well, exactly that. He doesn't understand that there's another type of pedal out there. Riders at home, we're talking about clip pedals, but Connor wants nothing to do with that. He has an aggressive style. He's able to get aggressive, hang it out, and he knows if he makes a small mistake, he can dab a foot. And that's played into his favor here because it's so loose and unpredictable.
Please nobody tell him that clipless pedals, meaning you clip into them, is even a thing that exists, because we don't want this man changing anything. Look at this run. Watch this roost.
And exactly that. He's able to take different lines. That reminds you of something Sam Hill used to do. He can go inside. He can drift if he needs to. He can just be a lot more creative.
Connor Fearon goes into the lead, but Mark Wallace wants to have something to say about that. He does not want this race to go to Australia again. Out of Canada, Mark Wallace. Let's see if he can do it.
No, it seems like a little bit Canada versus Australia now. The Commonwealth countries. He's in touch, 0.93, but then he's lost more time. Mark Wallace bleeding a bit of time on that Canyon factory bike. Seeing if he can draw back some time. No, he's not able to hop that. Losing a bit of momentum there as well. Mark Wallace was 5th here last year. Back in 2015, he was able to take a 2nd place as quite the youngster, but he's becoming quite the veteran at Crankworx and on the world circuit. So Mark Wallace, hard on the pedals here. Former teammate to the late Stevie Smith. He was mentored by him. Horrible loss to the mountain bike community and to Mark Wallace. Lost one of his best friends and riding partners. So Mark Wallace, out of Canada, living on the island, looking to take down Connor Fearon. He's sitting in the hot seat, Cam, pretty at 2:45.88. We weren't even sure if someone could get by Magnus's time, but Connor Fearon storming down on his flat pedals is in the hot seat.
Well, Mark Wallace, the last Canadian in the field with a chance to knock out the Australian. Oh, he's back by 2.77, but he does slide into podium position. 3rd place so far for Mark Wallace. Connor Fearon wiping a bit of sweat from his brow there, knowing he gets to hang out in that seat for at least one more rider.
Well, Connor Fearon, 2:45.88. Not having the best season up to his standards. He's had multiple top 10s at a World Cup, but not quite the speed we used to seeing out of him. And that was what I like to see out of him. Aggression. Play to your strengths. What those two riders at the top of the field did, they played to their strength. Magnus Manson said he went wide, trying to carry good speed. Connor Fearon, flat pedals, got aggressive, took some creative lines, risked it because he knew he could get away with it a little bit more than when you're on clips.
That's what it's all about, isn't it? Regardless of what discipline we're talking about, for the past 10 days, we keep saying play toward your strengths, and in downhill, definitely a relevant piece of advice for these racers. Well, before we get our next rider in the gate, we got our satellite unit out there, Michaela Gatto. Let's send it down to her for an update.
Thanks, Cam. Marcelo Gutierrez is about to drop in. He didn't do so well in the Garbanzo. He actually came last in the pro men's field, but as we know, Garbanzo is a really long race from the very top to the very bottom of Whistler. Today's a completely different ball game, so let's hope mentally he just puts that behind him and has what it takes to take that top spot.
Well, thanks, Michaela. You know he wants to get some redemption. Now, explain what happened to Marcelo in his Garbanzo downhill run.
Well, exactly. He didn't just come last out of nowhere. He did suffer a flat. He is the king of Garbanzo. He's won it upwards of 5 to 6 times. But this is a different race to Garbanzo. But maybe he's got some added motivation because normally he comes into this race, he's already got a win under the belt. Well, this year he does not.
Representing Colombia. Right now, we're getting that first split. A second back and then 3.27 seconds back. So Marcelo Gutierrez would have to pull out a miracle right now to unseat Connor Fearon.
So incredibly strong rider out of Colombia. Knocks on some World Cup podiums. He's also been a dominating force here at Crankworx. One of our favorites here, the ever smiling but serious, dedicated Marcelo Gutierrez, one of the fittest riders on the circuit. Watch him just hammer on these pedals. It feels like he's going to rip the bars off.
Power.
So Marcelo bleeding a little bit of time. Connor Fearon. Keeping it smooth. This man is strong. Great body position on the bike. Super neutral, super central. Not making too many mistakes here. Time to beat. Connor Fearon, 2:45.88. Marcelo to come across the line, and then we still only have 2 riders.
What's the time going to be for Marcelo Gutierrez? He crosses the line, 4.63 back, a time good enough for 8th place. Well, solid run for Marcelo, but not enough to get him into podium position. All looked good on our screen. Let's take a look back.
So we saw Marcelo setting up, taking that inside line, coming into the section in question here. He's able to hop and miss those holes. So aggressive riding by Marcelo. It just wasn't enough compared to Connor Fearon. The damage was done before we saw him on screen. There we talk about that central position. I really like. He's often very neutral on the bike. Stays over the bottom bracket. Lets the bike do the work under him.
Connor Fearon, our current leader in this race, but you heard us talking about it all season long, the king of Crankworx overall hunt, the massive war that all these battles feed into. Explain to me what this is all about, Andrew.
Well, we've had a long season. We've had 4 stops all over the world, upwards of 30 events that you can enter into, and $20,000 goes to the winner of the women's field. Jill Kittner took that one, and Sam Blenkinson was able to take the men's one. But the series title is not decided. Sam Blenkinson needs a tidy race here to secure that hefty paycheck as well.
Look at who we have here, the guy who won the crown last night when Thomas Lemoyne didn't get a 2nd place or better in the Joyride. But Sam Blenkinsop, as you alluded to, wants more than just the King of Crankworx title. He wants the overall, he wants to win this race, and look at that, only 0.17 back. Losing a little bit more, though.
Yeah, but he's doing what he needs to do. Sam Blenkinson was 2nd here last year. He's our king of Crankworx, leading the downhill circuit. Wow, aggressive there. The famous style of Sam Blenkinsop. So much body English, pedaling wherever he can. There you see it, out the woods, getting those pedal strokes in. Let's listen to the season he's had. 1st in Rotorua DH, 1st in Redwoods DH, 2nd in Innsbruck, 5th in Leger, 3rd in Garbo, 4th in Air DH. Just a man on form here, on fire. Sam Bleck is trying to secure the series title here at Crankworx Downhill Tour.
Sam Blenkinsop loves the Crankworx World Tour, doing whatever he could to make it to all the stops, despite maybe not having the full team there. And it's paid off. He's the king, but he wants to win this race right now. What's it gonna be?
He knows with a solid race he can do that. Is he holding back? Is he attacking? Sam Blenkinsop trying to take down Connor Fearon. This is going to be close.
Oh, man.
Just slipping by.
Sam Blenkinsop goes into 3rd place. 1.38 behind Connor Fearon. That was so incredibly close.
Well, he's going to secure that series title and another $5,000. This is a hefty payday for Sam Blenkinsop, and he deserves it. Coming to the European events on his own account. He bet on himself, Cam. That's just confidence right there.
Well, Jill and Sam, they know they have what it takes to grab top honors at the Crankworx Festival. Now, the rest of the world knows it as well.
Well, what we do know is there's going to be an Australian winner. It's not going to be Canadian this year.
Well, Michaela standing with Sam Blenkinsop.
All right, so you're not going to take the win today, but you did take the overall series title for the downhill. How does that feel?
Yeah, it's pretty good. My mouth's really parched. Yeah, it's been a sick week. Just been in recovery since months and end, so I feel pretty good. Like now I feel kind of like I was riding properly then, so I'm stoked for coming into the World Cup next weekend, so it's good.
Perfect. Well, great job out there.
Thank you.
Great ride for Sam Blenkinsop. Amazing season, but it's all about Troy Brosnan right now. Let's take a look back at round 3 in Leger, where he took top honors.
Well, we're not only talking about him trying to four-peat here. At the last round in Leger, Troy Brosnan on another iconic downhill track. That is Leger out in France. Big performance by Troy with a win there.
Oh, he's back up at the start gate right now for more action. That was the last stop where he took the gold medal. He wants to repeat on that, and he wants to repeat on the last 3 years here in the Canadian Open.
Troy Brosner, the youngster, you can see him. Australian national sleeve. What were the time? Our odds-on favorite, and he's doing just that. He's 1 second up. What will the next split, and what lines will he choose? Opting to break up, using a bit of traction there. Wow, he's lost time though. Conor Fearon was fast in that middle section. So there you see, opting for the inside line. Carrying good speed. Oh, just a man that can put his bike wherever he wants to. The little youngster. Tiny in stature, but man, he's got some results today.
The track is different after he rode through it. Do you see how much dirt was flying up off his tires?
Yeah, easily coming down in maybe the toughest conditions right now. There is loose rocks and dust everywhere. Troy Brosnan, he's barely ahead. Conor Fearon nervously sitting in that hot seat. Time of 2:45.88. Can Troy Brosnan take it home? Can he four-peat here in Canada? He used to call this home between races. Troy Brosnan. This is a man that doesn't hold anything back. He wants this title. He wants that paycheck. Troy Brosnan, our last rider down the hill. It's going to be an Aussie winner, but who will it be? Troy Brosnan. This is so close, coming to the finish.
Oh, what's it going to be?
Yes, he does just that. Troy Brosnan does the unthinkable. 4 in a row here at Whistler. Crankworx, Troy Brosnan, your winner. 2:45.37 over Conor Fearon.
Wow, what a performance out of that man right there, Troy Brosnan. Putting a half second on a time we were beginning to think was unbeatable by Conor Fearon. Well, the Australian holds on to it for the 4th year in a row. Michaela, let's hear from him.
All right, so you won the last 3 years here. You won in Leger. You won today. How does it feel?
Yeah, it feels amazing. It's so tough out there, and the dust, everything, even the smoke is burning my lungs. I need some water real bad.
Yeah, that's what Sam was saying too. So despite the parchedness, where on the track do you think was the most difficult to get through, the make or break section?
I think it was this last bit. It's so hard all in the fans and just trying to keep on track. I really lost a lot of time, and I don't know, apart from that, the run was sweet and I'm happy.
And this might have been the last time you raced this track because it might change for next year. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's something that should happen for sure. There's not much dirt left, and it's so iconic, but yeah, a change and a new track would be awesome.
Well, congrats again, and hopefully you can hold on to it next year.
Thank you. Thanks, Crankworx.
Oh, this crowd out here loves Troy Brosnan. As you said, Andrew, he spent so much time here, and I remember seeing him as just a little kid, I think on a mongoose or something, racing the 4-cross, and now look at him.
Well, exactly that. We saw him as a junior. We heard a little bit about that name, but who would think that we'd see him take 4 wins in a row here, the Canadian Open here in Whistler.
Well, there's a look at the final results here in the Canadian Open DH.
And it was tight at the top. Troy Brosnan would take it, but not by much. Conor Fearon in second by only half a second. And our pick before the broadcast, Magnus Manson, did really good and did Canada proud here.
That's right, but Australia 1 and 2 here in the Canadian Open DH presented by iXS. We'll digest this race after the break. Don't go away.
We're trying to make a drivetrain that works better. We're trying to improve upon the things that we had done.
Introducing the all-new SRAM GX Eagle drivetrain. No matter what kind of rider you are or the kind of terrain you might ride, Eagle is simply the best. GX Eagle drivetrains have a range of gears that rival or flat out beat most 2x systems. Engineered in Germany, made for the world. This is GX Eagle.
Crankworx is proud to call this place home, Whistler Mountain Bike Park. Love the feeling of being truly awake. So we talked about the King battle. Of course, Sam Blankensop taking the win, but this year there's also money for second and third, but taking the big bucks today is Sam Blankensop, a man that Michaela Gatto is standing next to at this very moment. Let's hear it, Michaela.
Okay, Sam, so you won the overall today. You also won King of Crankworx, but you found that out yesterday. Did you watch the slopestyle? The battle between you and Thomas Lemon came down to yesterday, really.
Yeah, I watched the second runs. It wasn't really in the back of my mind. I was more focusing on the downhill for today. But if Thomas would have got second or first, then it would have been cool, because then it would have been like a bit of a competition. But yeah, it was. I guess I was a bit lucky. I did quite a few events at Rotorua at the start of the season, so got some good points then. And then yeah, just decided that I'd try to get the King of Crankworx. So yeah, just did as much as I could and just rode the best I can, and pretty stoked to come away with a win. It's always good to win things, so I'm stoked.
Good to win things. And was it weird mentally competing for a title like King of Crankworx against someone that you actually never raced against all season?
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit funny. Yeah, it comes down to like we do downhill and they're doing pump track and slalom and those things, and we never race together. So, but maybe I need to mix it up next year and maybe do some slalom or give pump track a go and see how it goes. So yeah, see what happens.
And we talk about next year. This year, it wasn't really in your contract deal to come out here, but you made it out here yourself. Do you think that's something that you're going to kind of weasel in there for next year?
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, just come out and have fun, and that's why I like to come to Crankworx, because it's just a sick week of riding and get to race my bike. So it's also good for the World Cups, because it's like practice racing against some of the best guys in the world. So it's awesome.
Well, congratulations on an absolutely epic season, and we will see you next year. King of Crankworx, Sam Blankensop.
Thank you.
Well, the King of Crankworx crown makes its way into the hands of a rider who hails from New Zealand, and we'll make our way down to New Zealand to kick off the 2019 Crankworx World Tour. It's always the best way to kick it off. We're still in winter up in the northern hemisphere. We go to the summertime in the southern hemisphere. This is why we love this place. Take a look.
Double. Thanks, mate.
Crankworx Rotorua, March 18th to the 24th, 2019. For tickets and information, go to crankworx.com.
Well, we wouldn't miss that for anything. The 2019 World Tour will kick off just like the 2018 World Tour did in New Zealand. Doesn't it seem like we were down there just yesterday?
That it does. I can't believe the season is finally over. 4 stops all around the world. And man, what an exciting race it was here today.
We kinged the crown last night. Sam Blankensop getting second place in the downhill here today. But the final broadcast going to the same man who won this race 4 years in a row. What do you make of Troy Brosnan?
Yeah, it's just experience it paying off. Tracy Hanna was able to do it for herself. And then Troy, 4 years in a row, we just know that he's got confidence. He knows that he gets to that track. He's the fastest if he has a clean run.
So perhaps the last time we'll see racing on this track. Final thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's an iconic track. It's a great one to race. But you know what? Change is just as good as a holiday. So let's see what they got for next year.
It was a great day of racing today during the Canadian Open DH presented by iXS. It's been a great 11 days here in Whistler, the birthplace of Crankworx. And of course, it's been a fantastic season all year. Crankworx World Tour 2018 has come to a close. We'd like to express our deep thank you to all of you viewers out there around the world for tuning in. Get out, ride your bike, and we will see you in New Zealand, March 2019.